The gavel came down with a crack that echoed through the dusty auction hall in Eureka Springs, Arkansas, and Amanda Nelson felt every pair of eyes in the room turn toward her like she had just sprouted wings and announced she could fly. The year was 1882, and women did not bid on ranches, especially not bankrupt ones with reputations for being cursed by bad luck and worse management. The laughter started as a low rumble in the back of the room where the old-timers sat, their weathered faces creasing with amusement, and rolled forward like thunder across a prairie until the whole place shook with it. Amanda kept her chin up and her back straight as she walked toward the front to sign the papers, her modest dress swishing against the rough wooden floorboards. She had 23 years of life behind her, most of them spent watching her father's general store and learning the value of hard work and careful accounting. When he had passed 6 months ago and left her a modest inheritance, she knew exactly what she wanted to do with it. The Riverside Ranch had over 300 acres of good grazing land, a creek that never ran dry, and structures that just needed some attention. The previous owner had drunk himself into debt, but the land itself was sound. "Miss Nelson," the auctioneer said, barely concealing his own skepticism behind professional courtesy. "That will be $4,200 for the property, including all buildings, livestock, and equipment currently on site." She opened her reticule and produced the bank draft she had prepared that morning. Her hands did not shake, though her heart hammered against her ribs like a trapped bird. The auctioneer examined the draft with raised eyebrows, clearly having expected her to back out at this final moment. "Well then," he said slowly, "congratulations. You are now the owner of Riverside Ranch." The laughter had died down to chuckles and muttered conversations. Amanda could hear snippets as she collected her deed. Give it 3 months before she sells it at a loss. Probably thinks she can run it like a sewing circle. Shame to see good land go to waste like that. She turned to face the crowd, her hazel eyes scanning the faces. Most were amused or dismissive. A few looked outright hostile, including Marcus Brennan, who owned the neighboring Triple B Ranch and had clearly expected to snap up the Riverside property for a song. But one face stood out from the rest. A tall man leaning against the back wall, maybe 27 or 28 years old, with sun-darkened skin and serious blue eyes that studied her with something other than mockery. He wore working man's clothes, a worn hat pushed back on dark hair, and had the lean, strong build of someone who spent his days in the saddle. Their eyes met for just a moment before Amanda turned and walked out into the bright September sunshine, her deed clutched in her hand, and her mind already racing through everything she needed to do. The ranch was 5 miles outside town, and she had rented a buggy to get there. The road was rutted and dusty, winding through stands of oak and hickory just beginning to show the first hints of autumn color. When the property came into view, Amanda had to admit it looked worse than she remembered from her single viewing. The main house was a sprawling single-story structure with a sagging porch. The barn listed slightly to one side. Fences needed mending everywhere she looked. But the land itself rolled away in gentle hills covered in grass that was still green from recent rains, and the creek sparkled in the distance like a ribbon of silver. She climbed down from the buggy and walked slowly around the property, making mental notes. The house would need the porch replaced and the roof patched. The barn needed structural support, but the bones were good. The corrals could be fixed with time and materials. She had inherited 12 head of cattle, all half wild from neglect, and 2 horses that watched her suspiciously from the far end of a paddock. Amanda was standing in the barn, examining the hayloft ladder, when she heard hoofbeats approaching. She walked back out into the sunlight, shading her eyes, and saw the man from the auction riding toward her on a handsome bay gelding. He sat his horse like he had been born in the saddle, relaxed and easy. He reined in a respectful distance from where she stood and touched his hat brim. "Miss Nelson, name is Cole Lawson. I worked for the previous owner until he stopped being able to pay wages about 4 months back." "Mr. Lawson," Amanda said carefully. She had learned to be wary of men who approached her with business propositions, especially now that she was a property owner. "What can I do for you?" Cole dismounted, leaving his horse ground tied. Up close, she could see he had honest eyes and a scar along his jaw that looked like it came from barbed wire rather than a knife fight. His hands, when he removed his gloves, were calloused and capable. "I figure you are going to need help getting this place running," he said bluntly. "And I know every inch of this ranch, every head of cattle, every fence post that is about to give way. I am a good worker, Miss Nelson. I can handle horses, cattle, repairs, pretty much anything that needs doing. I am not asking for much in wages right now since I know you just put out a considerable sum. But I believe this ranch can be profitable again with proper management, and I would like to be part of making that happen." Amanda studied him carefully. "Why? Why do you care about this particular ranch?" Something flickered in Cole's expression, a brief shadow of old pain. "My father and the original owner were friends. I grew up playing in that creek down there, learning to ride in these corrals. When my pa died 8 years back, the owner at the time gave me work when I needed it most. I watched this place go downhill under the last owner, and I would like to see it restored. That is the sentimental reason. The practical reason is that I am a good ranch hand, and I need steady work. The whole town seems to think I am going to fail within 3 months," Amanda said, watching his reaction. Cole shrugged. "The whole town also thinks that cattle drives are going to last forever, even though the railroads are making them obsolete. I do not put much stock in what the town thinks. I saw you in that auction hall. You were not bidding on a whim. You had a bank draft ready and everything. That tells me you have been planning this." Amanda felt the knot of tension in her chest ease slightly. Here, finally, was someone who was not laughing. "I have plans for this place. It is going to be hard work, and I am not sure when I can pay proper wages. I have a little saved," Cole said. "Enough to get by for a while if I have a place to stay and food to eat. There is a small foreman's cabin behind the barn. I used to stay there when we were working late. If you will agree to room and board plus whatever you can spare for wages right now, with proper pay once the ranch is profitable, I will work for you." It was a risk. Amanda knew it was a risk. She barely knew this man. But something in his steady gaze and straightforward manner made her want to trust him, and she did need help. There was no way she could manage all this alone. "All right," she said, extending her hand. "We have a deal, Mr. Lawson." His hand enveloped hers, warm and rough with calluses. "Call me Cole, Miss Nelson. Amanda," she said. "If we are going to be working together, we might as well be on first-name terms." The ghost of a smile touched his lips, the first she had seen from him. It transformed his face, making him look younger and less careworn. "Amanda it is, then." They spent the rest of that day walking the property together, with Cole pointing out the most urgent repairs, and Amanda taking notes in a small leather journal she had brought. He showed her where fence posts had rotted through, where cattle had worn paths down to the creek and eroded the banks, where the roof of the barn had a hole that let in rain. But he also showed her the good things. The natural shelter of a grove of trees where cattle could escape the summer heat, a meadow with particularly rich grass, the sturdy construction of the smokehouse and root cellar. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, they stood on the porch of the main house and looked out over the property. "It is a good piece of land," Cole said quietly. "It just needs people who will care for it properly." "That is what I saw," Amanda agreed. Everyone else just saw the debt and the disrepair. But land like this, with water access, this close to town but with enough acreage to really raise cattle properly, this is valuable. This is a foundation to build something lasting on. Cole turned to look at her, and there was something in his expression that made her breath catch. Respect, certainly, but also a warmth that went beyond professional regard. "You are not what I expected." "What did you expect, honestly?" "Someone looking to make a quick profit. Buy low, fix it up just enough to sell high. But you are talking about building something lasting. That is different." Amanda felt heat rise in her cheeks and looked away, focusing on the darkening landscape. "My father built his store from nothing. It was not large or fancy, but it was solid and it provided for us. He taught me that real wealth is not about quick money. It is about building something of value that endures. That is what I want to do here." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment before Cole cleared his throat. "I should let you get settled. I will be in the foreman's cabin if you need anything. Tomorrow we can start on the most urgent repairs." After he left, Amanda explored the house properly. It was dusty and bore signs of neglect, but it was more spacious than her small apartment above her father's store had been. There were 3 bedrooms, a front room with a fireplace, and a kitchen with a cast iron stove. The furniture was sparse but functional. She found linens in a chest, though they would need a good washing. That night, lying in a bed that smelled of dust and age, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of the countryside around her, Amanda felt a mixture of terror and exhilaration. She had done it. She had actually bought a ranch. Tomorrow the real work would begin. But for now, she let herself simply exist in this moment of accomplishment. The next morning, she was awakened by the sound of hammering. She dressed quickly and found Cole already at work on the porch, replacing rotted boards he must have scavenged from somewhere. He had started a fire in the yard and put a pot of coffee on to boil. "Morning," he called when he saw her. "Hope I did not wake you too early. Wanted to get started before the day gets hot." "What time is it?" Amanda asked, accepting the cup of coffee he poured for her. "About 6. The cattle need checking on, but I figured the porch was more urgent. Nearly put my foot through a board yesterday." Amanda sipped the strong, hot coffee and watched him work. He moved with the efficiency of someone who had done such repairs 1,000 times, measuring nothing but getting everything right anyway. "Where did you get the lumber?" "Pulled it from the old chicken coop around back. It collapsed last winter, but some of the wood is still good. Waste not, want not." They fell into a routine over the following weeks that felt natural despite their short acquaintance. Cole handled the heavy repairs and the livestock, teaching Amanda how to approach the half-wild cattle, how to check their health, how to predict when they might bolt. Amanda took over the account books, planning their expenses down to the penny, and managed the house, which she slowly transformed from a dusty shell into a real home. They worked from dawn until dusk most days, taking breaks only for quick meals. Amanda learned to cook on the temperamental stove, producing simple but hearty fare. Cole proved to be good company over dinner, neither overly talkative nor sullen. He had a dry sense of humor that often caught her off guard, making her laugh at unexpected moments. One evening, about 3 weeks after she had bought the ranch, they were sitting on the newly repaired porch watching the stars come out when Cole said, "Town is going to be surprised when they see what we have accomplished here." Amanda stretched her tired shoulders. "Do you think they will change their minds about me? Does it matter?" She considered that. "I suppose not. I did not buy this ranch to prove anything to them, but it would be nice not to be laughed at when I go to buy supplies." Cole's jaw tightened. Someone laugh at you in town. It is nothing I cannot handle. That is not what I asked. Amanda sighed. Marcus Brennan made some comments at the general store yesterday. Nothing terrible, just loud speculation about how long until I fail and he can buy the property at auction. Brennan is a snake, Cole said flatly. He has been trying to expand his holdings for years, and he does not care who he steps on to do it. His ranch hands are loyal because he pays well, but they are a rough crew. Have you had trouble with them? Not yet. But Brennan is not happy that you bought this land instead of him. We should be careful. The warning proved prescient a few days later when Amanda discovered that a section of fence had been cut, allowing half their small herd to wander onto Triple B land. Cole found the damage first and came to get her, his face grim. This was not cattle rubbing against the posts, he said, showing her the clean cuts in the wire. Someone did this deliberately. Amanda felt anger rise in her throat like bile. Can we prove it was Brennan's people? No. And even if we could, he would just claim his men had nothing to do with it. We need to get the cattle back before he claims they are his now. They spent the next 6 hours tracking down their cattle and herding them home, hot, exhausted, and frustrated work. Cole rode onto Triple B land without hesitation, and when one of Brennan's hands confronted him, he simply said the cattle had broken through, and they were retrieving their property. The hand, a surly man named Dutch, made it clear they were not welcome but did not try to stop them. That evening, as they repaired the fence by lamplight, Cole said, "We need to register a brand. Official, recorded with the county. That way there is no question about which cattle are ours." "What should it be?" Amanda asked, holding a post steady while he stretched new wire. Cole paused, then looked at her with a slight smile. "What are your initials?" "AN, right, and mine are CL. How about the AC brand, alphabetical order, partners in this venture?" Something warm bloomed in Amanda's chest at his words. Partners. Equal footing, working together. I like that. The AC Ranch has a good sound to it, Cole agreed. The next day they rode into town together to register the brand. The county clerk, a pinch-faced man named Horace, looked over his spectacles at them with barely concealed amusement. The AC Ranch. That is what you are calling the old Riverside place. That is correct, Amanda said firmly. Well, it is your money, Horace said, filling out the paperwork with elaborate slowness. Brand registry costs $5. Amanda paid the fee and took the official certificate with a sense of satisfaction. As they left the office, they nearly collided with Marcus Brennan himself on the boardwalk. He was a thick-set man in his 40s, well-dressed and wearing an expensive hat. His eyes traveled from Amanda to Cole and back again with an expression that made Amanda's skin crawl. "Miss Nelson," he said, voice dripping with false courtesy. "I have been meaning to come by and welcome you properly to the neighborhood." "That is kind of you, Mr. Brennan," Amanda said coolly. "I hope you are not finding ranch life too difficult. It can be hard work for someone unaccustomed to it." His eyes flicked to Cole again. "Even with help." Cole said nothing, but Amanda could feel the tension radiating from him. "I am managing just fine," Amanda said. "In fact, we were just registering our brand. The AC Ranch is official now." Something flickered in Brennan's expression, irritation quickly masked. "How nice." "Well, if you ever decide this life is not for you, I would be happy to make you a fair offer for the property. Save you the embarrassment of another auction." "I will keep that in mind," Amanda said, though they both knew she would do no such thing. As they rode back to the ranch, Cole finally spoke. "He is going to be trouble, I know, but we are not going to let him intimidate us." Cole looked at her with something like admiration. "No, I suppose we are not." October arrived with cooler temperatures and the first serious frost. The ranch was beginning to look like a working operation again. The buildings were repaired, the fences mended and reinforced. They had managed to gentle the horses enough to use them for work, and the cattle were starting to settle into a routine. Amanda had even begun to plan for expanding the herd in the spring. But more than the physical transformation of the ranch, something else was changing. Amanda found herself increasingly aware of Cole's presence, the sound of his voice, the way he moved through space with that easy confidence. She noticed small things. The way he always made sure she had coffee before he took his own, how he shortened his stride to match hers when they walked together, the way his eyes sought her out across the yard, as if to reassure himself she was there. She tried to tell herself it was just the natural camaraderie of people working closely together toward a common goal. But when she lay in bed at night, it was Cole's face she saw behind her closed eyes, Cole's rare smile that made her heart beat faster. One chilly afternoon, they were working together to sort through old tack in the barn, deciding what could be salvaged and what needed to be replaced. Amanda reached for a bridle on a high hook and stumbled on a loose board. Cole caught her, his hands solid on her waist, steadying her. For a moment they stood frozen, close enough that Amanda could see the darker rim around his blue irises, could feel the warmth of his breath. "Careful," he said softly, but he did not immediately let go. "Thank you," Amanda whispered. They stared at each other, the moment stretching out, taut with possibility. Then Cole stepped back, releasing her, and cleared his throat. "We should fix that board before someone turns an ankle." "Yes," Amanda agreed, her voice not quite steady. "We should." But something had shifted between them, acknowledged even if not spoken aloud. Amanda caught Cole watching her more often, his gaze warm and intent. When their hands brushed passing tools or dishes, the contact seemed to linger. They sat closer together on the porch in the evenings, their conversation ranging from practical matters to dreams and memories, learning each other's histories and hearts. Cole told her about growing up in Texas, about losing his mother young and following his father through a series of ranches before settling here. About the hard years after his father's death when he was 19, alone and grieving, taking whatever work he could find. Amanda told him about her childhood in Little Rock, about her mother's death when she was 12, and how she had taken over managing the household and helping in the store. About her father's slow decline after an illness 2 years ago, and how she had nursed him through his final months. "He would have liked you," Amanda said one evening, surprising herself with the words. "Your father." "Yes, he always said to judge people by their work and their word. You are good at both." Cole looked at her with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. "That means a lot to me. More than you might realize." November brought the first snow, just a dusting that melted by afternoon, but a reminder that winter was coming. Amanda and Cole spent several days making sure the barn was properly weatherproofed and that they had enough feed stored for the cattle. They worked well together now, often anticipating each other's needs before they were spoken. The town's attitude toward Amanda was slowly changing, though she suspected it had more to do with Cole's presence than any particular respect for her abilities. When she went to town for supplies, the merchants were polite now, if not exactly warm. She heard less laughter behind her back. But she also heard whispers of a different kind, speculation about her relationship with Cole, whether it was proper for them to be living on the same property even with separate residences. Amanda found she cared less about such gossip than she would have expected. Her reputation had already been damaged by the radical act of buying a ranch. What more could they say about her that would matter? But Cole seemed troubled by it. One evening in mid-November, he brought it up as they sat by the fireplace in the main house, reviewing the account books. People in town are talking, he said abruptly. Amanda looked up from the ledger. People are always talking. About you, about us, about it not being proper. Cole, I bought a ranch on my own. I lost proper months ago. I am not going to worry about what people think of our working relationship. It is not just about propriety, Cole said, setting down his coffee cup and looking at her directly. I do not want my presence here to hurt your standing in the community. If you would be better served by hiring someone else, someone it would be more acceptable for you to work with. Stop, Amanda said firmly. I am not going to fire you because of idle gossip. You have been the only person who believed in this venture from the start. You have worked harder than I had any right to ask, and more than that, you have become. She paused, her heart hammering. You have become important to me. The firelight played across Cole's face as he studied her. Important how? It was a fair question, and it deserved an honest answer. Amanda took a deep breath. I think you know how. I see the way you look at me sometimes. Unless I am completely misreading the situation, which would be mortifying, but I do not think I am. I think you care about me as more than just a business partner. Cole stood up from his chair and crossed to where Amanda sat on the settee. He knelt beside her so they were eye to eye. You are not misreading anything. Amanda, I have been trying to keep my feelings professional because you are my employer and because I did not want to presume. But if you are asking what I feel, then I will tell you honestly. I am in love with you. I think I have been falling in love with you since I watched you walk out of that auction house with your head high, refusing to be ashamed of your dreams. Every day since then has just made it clearer. You are brave and smart and determined, and when you smile at me, it feels like sunshine. Amanda felt tears prick her eyes. She reached out and cupped his face with her hand, feeling the scratch of stubble against her palm. I love you too. I kept telling myself it was too soon, that we needed to keep things professional, but I cannot pretend anymore. When I think about the future of this ranch, you are in every vision of it. Not as an employee, as a partner, as someone I want to build a life with. Cole turned his head and kissed her palm, then slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, he leaned in and kissed her lips. It was gentle at first, tentative, and then deeper as Amanda responded, threading her fingers through his hair. When they finally pulled apart, both were breathing hard. I do not have much to offer you, Cole said, his forehead resting against hers. No property of my own, no family name or fortune. You have yourself, Amanda said. That is everything I want. We built this together, Cole. The ranch is as much yours as mine. We are already partners in everything but name. Then maybe we should change that, Cole said. Maybe we should make it official. Amanda Nelson, will you marry me? Joy bubbled up in Amanda's chest, bright and effervescent. Yes, absolutely yes. They kissed again, longer this time, celebrating and sealing their promise to each other. When they finally drew apart, Cole was smiling broadly, his usual serious expression transformed into something radiant. I should buy you a ring, he said. A proper one. Eventually, Amanda agreed. But right now, I do not need a ring, I just need you. They sat together on the settee, Amanda tucked against Cole's side, his arm around her shoulders, and talked late into the night about their future. They would marry quickly and quietly, they decided. Neither wanted a big fuss. What mattered was the life they would build together, not the ceremony that started it. The next day, Cole rode into town and spoke to the circuit preacher who came through Eureka Springs twice a month. Arrangements were made for a simple ceremony the following week. Amanda bought a length of blue fabric and sewed herself a new dress, practical but pretty. Cole spent an entire week's savings on a simple gold band from the jeweler, who looked surprised but pleased by the sale. On a cold Saturday in late November, they stood in the small church with only the preacher and two witnesses pulled in from the street, and pledged their lives to each other. Amanda had never felt more certain of anything. When Cole kissed her as his wife, she felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. The town's reaction was mixed. Some people seemed to think it was romantic that the lady rancher had married her cowboy. Others considered it scandalous. Marcus Brennan, when he heard the news, reportedly threw a glass against the wall of the saloon. But none of that mattered to Amanda and Cole. They had each other, they had their ranch, and they had plans. Winter settled in earnestly after their wedding, bringing snow and ice that made ranch work harder but not impossible. They took care of the livestock together, breaking ice on water troughs, making sure the cattle had access to hay. In the evenings, they retreated to the warm house, to the marriage bed they now shared, learning each other's bodies with the same careful attention they had learned each other's minds. Amanda had been nervous about the physical aspects of marriage, but Cole was patient and gentle, making sure she felt safe and cherished. What started as tentative exploration became passionate connection, another way they expressed the love that grew deeper with each passing day. Christmas came, and they celebrated simply but joyfully. Amanda made a special dinner, and Cole surprised her with a music box he had ordered from a catalog, a delicate thing that played a waltz. They danced in the front room to its tinny music, laughing and holding each other close. "I never imagined I could be this happy," Amanda whispered against Cole's shoulder. "Neither did I," he admitted. "I thought I would just be a hired hand my whole life, moving from ranch to ranch. I never dreamed I would have a home, a wife, a future." "You have all of that now," Amanda assured him. "And I have everything I dreamed of too. We are building something that will last, Cole, something we can be proud of." The new year of 1883 arrived with clear, cold skies and a sense of possibility. Cole and Amanda spent the winter months planning their expansion. They would need to buy more cattle in the spring, young stock they could raise and eventually sell. They would need to hire at least one more hand to help with the increased workload. And they would need to think about planting crops for feed, making the ranch more self-sufficient. But even as they planned, trouble was brewing. In February, one of their best breeding cows went missing. Cole found tracks leading toward Triple B land and followed them, returning hours later with a grim expression. "The cow is dead," he reported to Amanda. "Shot, left to rot just over the property line." Amanda felt sick. Why would someone do that, to send a message? "To show us that they can hurt us whenever they want." "Did you see who did it?" Cole shook his head. "No proof, but I would bet everything I own that it was Brennan's doing." Amanda wanted to ride straight to the Triple B and confront Brennan, but Cole talked her out of it. "He wants us to react emotionally. Wants us to give him an excuse to claim we are the aggressors. We need to be smart about this." Instead, they filed a report with the town sheriff, a weary man named Jack Donnelly who promised to look into it but clearly had little enthusiasm for the task. Everyone knew Brennan had influence in the area, and few lawmen wanted to cross him without solid evidence. The incident cast a shadow over the early spring, but Amanda and Cole refused to be intimidated. They reinforced their fences, started riding regular patrols of their property line, and made sure someone was always watching the herd. Cole taught Amanda to shoot a rifle properly, and she practiced until she could hit a target with reasonable accuracy. "I do not want to have to use this," she said one afternoon at target practice. "Neither do I," Cole agreed, "but I want you to be able to protect yourself if it comes to it. I cannot always be by your side, much as I would like to be." March brought warmer weather and the annual cattle auction where ranchers bought new stock. Amanda and Cole had saved carefully over the winter, and they had enough to purchase 6 young heifers and a good bull. The auction was held in Fort Smith, a day's ride away, and they made the trip together, camping one night under the stars on the way. At the auction, they found themselves bidding against Marcus Brennan for the bull they wanted, a fine young animal with good bloodlines. Brennan kept driving the price up, clearly more interested in spiting them than in actually wanting the animal. Finally, at a price that stretched their budget to the breaking point, Brennan dropped out with a mocking tip of his hat. "You overpaid for that bull," he said as they finalized the purchase. "But I suppose you city folk do not understand livestock values." Cole stepped forward, his jaw tight, but Amanda put a hand on his arm. "The bull is worth exactly what we paid for him, Mr. Brennan. And he is going to improve our herd significantly. Thank you for your concern, though." Brennan's eyes narrowed. "You are playing at something you do not understand, girl. When you fail, and you will, do not come crying to me." "I would never give you that satisfaction," Amanda said coolly. As they drove their new cattle back toward the ranch, Cole said, "You handled that well. I wanted to hit him." "So did I. But he is not worth the trouble it would cause. We will prove him wrong by succeeding, not by fighting." The spring work was exhausting but satisfying. They integrated the new cattle into their herd, started planting feed crops, and hired a young ranch hand named Tommy Wheeler, who was eager to learn and willing to work hard for fair wages. At 19, Tommy was full of energy and grateful for steady employment. He took to the work quickly, and his presence allowed Cole and Amanda to accomplish even more. By late April, the ranch was humming with activity. The cattle were thriving, the crops were growing, and they had even repaired the old chicken coop and gotten a flock of laying hens. Amanda took over managing the chickens and started selling eggs in town, bringing in a small but steady additional income. One warm May evening, Amanda realized her monthly courses were late. She had been feeling queasy in the mornings and unusually tired. It took her a few days to work up the courage to say anything to Cole, uncertain how he would react to the news that she was almost certainly pregnant. She told him as they sat on the porch after dinner, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of rose and gold. "Cole, I think I am going to have a baby." He turned to stare at her, his expression unreadable for a moment. Then a slow smile spread across his face and he pulled her into his arms. "Truly, we are going to have a child. I am fairly certain, yes. I should probably see the doctor to be sure, but all the signs are there." Cole kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. "This is wonderful, terrifying but wonderful. A baby, our baby." "You are happy about it?" Amanda asked, needing to hear him say it. "Happy does not begin to cover it." "Amanda, when I married you, I thought I had already received more than I deserved. But a child, a family, that is beyond anything I dared to hope for." They sat together as the stars came out, talking about names and nurseries and all the changes a baby would bring. Tommy could take on more responsibilities, they decided, and they might need to hire another hand to help during the busy seasons. But they would manage. They had managed everything else. The doctor confirmed the pregnancy a week later and estimated the baby would arrive in late December or early January. Amanda started sewing tiny clothes in the evenings, and Cole began converting one of the spare bedrooms into a nursery, building a cradle with his own hands. Summer arrived with its usual heat and work. The cattle needed to be moved to fresh grazing, fences needed constant maintenance, and the crops required careful tending. Amanda's pregnancy progressed smoothly, though she tired more easily and had to let Cole and Tommy handle the heavier work. She focused on managing the household and the accounts, and started a garden near the house where she grew vegetables for their table. In July, they received word that Brennan had tried to file a claim that part of their southern pasture was actually on his land. It was a blatant lie. easily disproved by the survey records, but it required a trip to the county seat and legal fees they could ill afford. Amanda, 6 months pregnant and uncomfortable in the heat, made the trip with Cole and presented their case to the land office with calm, documented precision. The claim was dismissed, but the harassment was taking its toll. "He is not going to stop," Cole said on the ride home. "He wants this land, and he is going to keep coming at us any way he can." "Then we keep fighting back," Amanda said, her hand resting on her swollen belly. "We have too much at stake to give up now." But that night, alone in their bedroom, she let herself cry out of frustration and exhaustion. Cole held her, murmuring reassurances, but they both knew the situation was growing more serious. The confrontation came in late August, on a day so hot the air shimmered with it. Cole and Tommy were moving cattle to a far pasture when they found a dozen of Brennan's cattle grazing on a sea land, and the fence cut in 3 places. This time, Brennan himself was there with 2 of his hands, waiting. "Seems my cattle wandered onto your land," Brennan said with false innocence. "The fence must have given way." "The fence was cut," Cole said flatly, "and you know it because you or your men did the cutting." "That is a serious accusation, Lawson. You got proof?" "I have 3 sections of cleanly cut wire. That is not cattle damage." Brennan shrugged. "Could have been anyone. Lots of drifters pass through these parts. Maybe they wanted to cause trouble between neighbors." Cole's hands clenched into fists at his sides. Tommy, sensing violence brewing, positioned himself slightly behind Cole, ready to back him up. "Get your cattle off my land," Cole said, his voice low and dangerous. "Your land?" Brennan smiled unpleasantly. "Last I checked, this ranch belonged to Amanda Nelson. Or is it Amanda Lawson now? Hard to keep track. Does she even know you are out here starting trouble with the neighbors?" "We are leaving," Cole said, visibly restraining himself. "But we are taking this to the sheriff." "Again." "You do that," Brennan said. "But we both know old Donnelly is not going to do anything. Face it, Lawson. You married yourself a woman with ideas above her station, and now you are both going to pay the price. This ranch should be mine." "It would have been mine if she had not stuck her nose into matters that do not concern women." Cole took a step forward, and one of Brennan's hands put his hand on his gun. Tommy moved closer to Cole, his own hand near his weapon. The moment balanced on a knife edge. Then Amanda's voice cut through the tension. "That is enough." Everyone turned to see her riding toward them on one of their horses, her pregnancy obvious even in the saddle. Cole's face went pale with concern and anger. "Amanda, you should not be out here. I saw you ride out in a hurry and figured there was trouble." She reined in her horse and looked directly at Brennan. "Mr. Brennan, I am going to say this one time. Get your cattle off my land and stay off it. Stop cutting my fences. Stop harassing my family." "We have been patient, but that patience is not infinite," Brennan laughed. "And what are you going to do about it, little lady? Glare at me until I leave?" "No," Amanda said calmly. "I am going to document every incident of harassment, every cut fence, every trespassing animal. I am going to build a case so solid that not even your influence will save you. And then I am going to take you to court and sue you for damages and harassment. It might take time, but I am very, very patient when I need to be." Something in her absolute certainty seemed to give Brennan pause. He studied her for a long moment, then shrugged. "Sue me if you want. You will just be wasting money on lawyers." "Maybe, but I will make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man you are, how you harass a pregnant woman and her family, how you sabotage your neighbors. That kind of reputation might make people think twice about doing business with you." Brennan's face darkened. "You threatening me?" "No, I am promising you, leave us alone, or I will make it my mission to ensure everyone knows what you have done." "Your choice, Mr. Brennan." The silence stretched out, taut and dangerous. Finally, Brennan jerked his head at his men. "Let's go. Move the cattle back." As they watched Brennan and his men drive the cattle away, Cole turned to Amanda. "That was dangerous. You should not have come out here." "I was not going to sit in the house wondering if my husband was getting into a gunfight," Amanda said. "Besides, I think Brennan is more afraid of social consequences than legal ones. Men like him care about their reputation." "You were amazing," Tommy said, his eyes wide with admiration. "You just stared him down." Amanda smiled tiredly. "I was terrified, but sometimes you have to pretend to be braver than you feel. Let's go home and fix that fence. Again." The confrontation seemed to mark a turning point. Brennan's harassment decreased significantly over the following weeks, though Cole remained watchful and wary. Amanda documented everything anyway, just in case, building a file of dates and damages. Autumn arrived with relief from the heat and a bountiful harvest from their crops. They had enough hay stored for the winter and more besides. The cattle were thriving, and their herd had grown through natural increase and good management. Despite all the obstacles, the Assis Ranch was succeeding. In October, they celebrated their first anniversary with a special dinner and gifts. Cole gave Amanda a locket with a tiny photograph of the two of them taken in town. Amanda gave Cole a new saddle, custom-made with his initials burned into the leather. They sat together late into the night, reminiscing about their first year together. "I cannot believe it has only been a year," Amanda said, her hand on her very pregnant belly. "It feels like you have been part of my life forever." "I feel the same," Cole agreed. "Last year at this time I was just hoping for a job. Now I have a wife, a child on the way, and a home." "Everything has changed. For the better." Cole pulled her close, careful of her belly. "For the immeasurably better. I love you, Amanda Lawson." "I love you too." December arrived cold and clear. The baby was due any day now, and Cole hovered nervously, barely willing to leave Amanda's side. She tolerated his protectiveness with good humor, though she reminded him regularly that women had been having babies for thousands of years, and she would be fine. On a snowy night in mid-December, Amanda's labor began. Cole rode through the storm to fetch the doctor and the midwife, leaving Tommy to stay with Amanda. By the time he returned with both medical professionals, the labor was progressing rapidly. Cole was banished from the bedroom, and he paced the front room like a caged animal while Tommy tried to distract him with conversation. "Women do this every day," Tommy said, repeating Amanda's own words. "She is strong. She will be fine." "I know," Cole said, but he sounded like he was trying to convince himself. Hours passed, marked by sounds from the bedroom that made Cole wince. Finally, as dawn was breaking, they heard the sharp cry of a newborn baby. Cole froze, staring at the bedroom door. A few minutes later, the midwife emerged, smiling. "You have a son, Mr. Lawson, a healthy boy, and your wife is tired but well. You can go in now." Cole rushed past her into the bedroom. Amanda was propped up on pillows, exhausted and pale but smiling. In her arms was a tiny bundle wrapped in blankets. Cole approached slowly, almost reverent. "Meet your son," Amanda said softly. Cole looked down at the baby's scrunched red face and felt his heart expand in a way he had not known was possible. "He is perfect," he whispered. "You are perfect. I love you both so much." "What should we name him?" Amanda asked. They had discussed names for months but never quite settled on one. Now, looking at their son, Cole said, "What about Daniel? It was my father's name." "Daniel Lawson," Amanda tested the name. "I like it. Daniel Cole Lawson." "Perfect," Cole agreed. He sat carefully on the edge of the bed and wrapped his arm around Amanda, the three of them forming a tight circle. "Welcome to the world, Daniel. You are very, very loved." The days after Daniel's birth passed in a blur of sleepless nights and constant feedings. Cole took over as much of the ranch work as he could manage, with Tommy stepping up to handle more responsibility. The whole ranch seemed to organize itself around protecting Amanda's rest and the baby's needs. When Amanda was strong enough, they had Daniel baptized at the church with half the town in attendance. The tide of public opinion had turned decidedly in their favor over the past year. The story of the lady rancher and her cowboy husband who had defied the odds and made a success of a failing property had become something of a local legend. Even people who had laughed at Amanda at the auction now spoke of her with respect. Marcus Brennan stayed away, his harassment having apparently ended. Rumor had it he had overextended himself financially trying to expand his own operations, and was now dealing with his own problems. Amanda felt no satisfaction in his struggles, only relief that he was no longer a threat to her family. The winter passed peacefully. Daniel grew and thrived, and Amanda slowly regained her strength. By early spring, she was back to managing the ranch alongside Cole, with Daniel often napping in a basket nearby while they worked. Tommy had proven so valuable that they gave him a raise and officially made him assistant foreman. In March, on a sunny afternoon that promised the coming warmth of spring, Cole found Amanda in the garden, planting early vegetables while Daniel slept in his basket in the shade. "I have been thinking," he said, sitting down beside her. "About what? About how far we have come. About everything we have built together. This time 2 years ago I was a drifter with no real prospects. You were running your father's store and dreaming of something more. And now look at us. We have a successful ranch, a son, a future." Amanda wiped dirt from her hands and leaned against him. "It has not been easy. No, but it has been worth it. Every single challenge, every obstacle, it was worth it to get here, to have this life with you. Do you ever regret it?" Amanda asked, "tying your fate to mine when everyone said we would fail." Cole turned her face toward him and kissed her thoroughly. "Not for a single second. Partnering with you, marrying you, building this life with you, these are the best decisions I ever made. I would do it all again in a heartbeat. Even the part where Marcus Brennan tried to run us off our own land, even that. It proved what we are capable of when we stand together. Nothing can defeat us as long as we have each other." Amanda smiled and kissed him again. "I feel the same way. I love you, Cole Lawson." "I love you too, Amanda Lawson." As the years passed, the AC Ranch continued to prosper. They expanded their herd, bought adjacent parcels of land when they became available, and built a reputation for quality cattle and honest dealing. Daniel grew into a bright, energetic boy who loved the ranch as much as his parents did. When he was 3, he gained a baby sister named Sarah, and 2 years after that, another brother named Michael. Tommy stayed on and eventually married a girl from town, building his own small house on ranch property. Cole and Amanda took him on as a full partner, acknowledging his years of loyal service and hard work. The AC Ranch became known throughout the region as a model operation, and other ranchers came to study their methods. Marcus Brennan eventually lost the Triple B to foreclosure and left the area. The property was bought by a consortium of smaller ranchers who divided it up and proved to be good neighbors. Amanda felt vindicated but not vengeful. She had never wanted to destroy Brennan, only to protect what she and Cole had built. As Amanda approached 40, she sometimes stood on the porch of their expanded house and looked out over the ranch in amazement. The scared 23-year-old who had bought a failing property on faith and determination seemed like a different person now. But she was not really different, Amanda realized. She had always had the courage and capability inside her. She had just needed the right circumstances and the right partner to bring it out. Cole, now in his mid-40s, was grayer at the temples but still strong and vital. He handled most of the heavy ranch work, though he was training Daniel to take over more responsibilities as the boy grew. Their partnership had only deepened over the years, built on mutual respect, shared work, and enduring love. One evening in late spring, with all three children finally asleep after a chaotic dinner, Cole and Amanda sat on their porch swing and watched the sunset. It had become their ritual, this quiet moment at the end of the day when they reconnected and remembered why they had worked so hard. "Do you remember the auction?" Amanda asked. When everyone laughed, Cole smiled. "I remember thinking you were either the bravest woman I had ever seen or the most foolish. Turned out you were the bravest. You were the only one who did not laugh. Why? Because I saw something in your eyes. Determination. Vision. You were not buying that ranch on a whim. You had a plan. I respected that. And now here we are, almost 20 years later." "Almost 20 years," Cole echoed. "3 children, a successful ranch, and a love that just keeps growing stronger." "Not bad for a lady rancher and her cowboy." Amanda laughed. "Is that what we are? A lady rancher and her cowboy? Well, you are definitely a lady, though you can rope a steer as well as any man, and I am definitely a cowboy, though I think my official title is husband and partner." "Co-owner," Amanda corrected. "I had the deeds updated years ago, remember? The ranch belongs to both of us equally. You did not have to do that." "Yes, I did. You have earned it 1,000 times over. We built this together, Cole. Everything good in my life I have built with you." Cole pulled her close, and they sat in comfortable silence as the stars began to emerge. Down by the barn, they could hear Tommy calling goodnight to the horses. From inside the house came a sleepy murmur from one of the children, quickly soothed back to silence. The cattle lowed in the distance, a peaceful sound that spoke of a well-run operation. "I have been thinking about the future," Cole said after a while. "Daniel is growing up fast. In a few more years, he will be old enough to really run this place. What do you want to do then?" Amanda considered the question. "I want to travel a little, see more of the country than just Arkansas and the neighboring states. But I also want to stay involved with the ranch. This place is part of me now. I cannot imagine not being connected to it." "We could do both," Cole suggested. "Take trips during the slow seasons, leave Daniel and Tommy in charge, see the ocean, visit those big cities you have read about." "I would like that, as long as I get to come home to you and to this place." "Always," Cole promised. "This is home. We made it together and it will always be ours." The years continued to unfold with their mixture of challenge and joy. Daniel proved to be a natural rancher, taking to the work with enthusiasm and skill. When he turned 21, Cole and Amanda officially made him a partner in the ranch, though they remained actively involved in management. Daniel eventually married a smart young woman named Catherine, who brought her own ideas and energy to the operation. Sarah, independent and spirited, shocked everyone by going to college in Little Rock to study accounting. When she graduated, she returned to the ranch and revolutionized their bookkeeping, finding ways to maximize profits that had never occurred to her parents. She married a lawyer from town, and they built a house on ranch property, close enough to stay involved but far enough for privacy. Michael, the youngest, struggled to find his place. He loved the ranch but lacked his brother's natural affinity for cattle and his sister's head for figures. It was Cole who suggested that Michael focus on the horse breeding operation they had started almost by accident years earlier. Michael took to it with passion, and within a few years, the AC Ranch was known throughout the region for producing quality horses as well as cattle. Amanda and Cole watched their children grow and thrive with pride and satisfaction. They took their trips, seeing the Pacific Ocean, visiting San Francisco and Denver, experiencing the wider world. But they always came back to the ranch, to the land they had claimed together and made into something lasting. On their 25th anniversary, their children organized a celebration that brought together ranchers and townspeople from throughout the region. The party was held at the ranch, with tables set up in the yard and music provided by local musicians. Amanda wore a new dress in her favorite shade of blue, and Cole wore his best suit, though he tugged at the collar uncomfortably. "I still feel like I should be wearing work clothes," he muttered as they greeted guests. Amanda laughed and straightened his tie. "You look handsome. And this is a special occasion. 25 years of marriage. 25 years of proving everyone wrong," Cole corrected with a smile. That phrase had become something of a family motto over the years. When challenges arose, when obstacles seemed insurmountable, Amanda and Cole would remind each other that they had built everything they had by refusing to accept other people's limitations. As the celebration continued into the evening, with dancing and laughter and toasts to the happy couple, Amanda found a quiet moment to step away from the crowd. She walked to the edge of the yard and looked out over the ranch in the fading light. The buildings were all well maintained now, expanded and improved over the years. The pastures were dotted with high-quality cattle. The corrals held beautiful horses, and everywhere she looked, she saw the fruits of a quarter-century of hard work and love. Cole found her there as she had known he would. He always knew when she needed him. "Hiding from your own party?" he asked, slipping his arm around her waist. "Just taking a moment to appreciate everything. Do you remember what this place looked like when I first bought it? The falling-down barn, the sagging porch, the half-wild cattle. I remember. I also remember a determined woman with a vision who refused to be discouraged by the enormity of the task ahead. I could not have done it without you. You know that, right? Without your skills, your knowledge, your willingness to take a chance on someone everyone else was laughing at, none of this would exist." Cole turned her to face him, his hands gentle on her shoulders. "We did it together. That has always been our strength. Not you alone, not me alone, but us together. Partners in every sense of the word." Amanda reached up and touched his face, seeing the lines that time had etched there, the gray in his hair, the small signs of aging that came to everyone. But she also saw the same blue eyes that had studied her so seriously in the auction hall all those years ago, the same strength and integrity that had made her trust him from the start. "I love you," she said simply. "After 25 years, I love you more than I did on our wedding day." "I love you too. You are still the bravest, most remarkable woman I have ever known, and I am grateful every single day that you took a chance on a cowboy who showed up offering his services." They kissed there in the gathering darkness, surrounded by the evidence of their shared life. From the party behind them came the sounds of celebration. Their children's laughter, the music, the happy voices of friends and neighbors. But in that moment, it was just the two of them, as it had been in the beginning. Eventually, they returned to the party, dancing together as they had on their wedding night, moving in perfect synchronization born of years of partnership. Their children watched with smiles, and their grandchildren, too young to understand the significance but happy anyway, danced around them. As Amanda grew older, she never lost her sharp mind or her involvement in the ranch. She adapted to changing times, embracing new ranching techniques and business practices while maintaining the core values she and Cole had established. When automobiles became common, she learned to drive one, though she still preferred riding when checking on the cattle. When telephones came to rural Arkansas, she had lines installed so they could conduct business more efficiently. Cole aged more slowly than seemed possible, still working the ranch well into his 60s, still riding fence lines and moving cattle alongside his sons and the ranch hands. His body might have slowed a fraction, but his mind remained sharp and his love for the land undiminished. They celebrated their 50th anniversary with another gathering, smaller and quieter than the 25th had been, but no less meaningful. They were surrounded by children, grandchildren, and even a few great-grandchildren. The Assi Ranch had become a dynasty, a lasting legacy of what two people could build when they believed in each other and refused to quit. On a warm afternoon in late summer, when Amanda was 73 and Cole 77, they sat together on their porch swing as they had thousands of times before. They moved slower now, and Cole sometimes needed a cane, but the essential connection between them was as strong as ever. "Do you have any regrets?" Amanda asked, a question they had asked each other periodically over the decades. Cole considered carefully, as he always did. "I regret that my father did not live to see what we built here. He would have been proud. And I regret every moment of pain or difficulty you had to endure, though I know those challenges made us stronger. But regret our life together? Never, not for one single day." "Good," Amanda said, satisfied, "because I feel the same way. If I could go back and do it all again, I would not change a thing, except maybe I would have kissed you sooner." Cole laughed, the sound rich and warm. "I was trying to be respectful. You were my employer. I was never just your employer. I think we both knew that from the start, even if it took us a while to admit it." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the ranch go about its evening routines. Daniel was down by the barn with his eldest son, teaching the boy how to properly care for Tack. Sarah was in the office going over accounts with her daughter. Michael was in the round pen working with a young horse. The ranch was in good hands, ready to continue for generations. "We proved them wrong," Amanda said softly. "Everyone who laughed that day in the auction hall. Everyone who said a woman could not run a ranch. Everyone who thought we would fail. We proved them all wrong." "We did," Cole agreed. "But more importantly, we proved to ourselves what we were capable of. We built something that will outlast us, something our family will benefit from long after we are gone. That is worth more than the satisfaction of proving anyone wrong." Wise words from my cowboy partner. Cole squeezed her hand. "Only partner I ever wanted or needed." As the sun set behind the hills, painting the sky in brilliant colors, Amanda felt a deep sense of contentment. She had lived a full life, rich in love and accomplishment. She had taken a risk that day at the auction, and it had paid off beyond her wildest dreams. Not just in the material success of the ranch, but in the love she had found with Cole, in the family they had created, in the life they had built together from nothing. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" "For believing in me. For partnering with me. For loving me. For everything." Cole lifted her hand to his lips and kissed it gently. "Thank you for giving a drifting cowboy a chance to have a home and a family. Thank you for your courage and vision and determination. Thank you for every day of the past 50 years. Thank you for being you." They sat together as the stars emerged, two old people who had built an empire together through hard work, mutual respect, and unwavering love. The ranch around them was quiet now, settling into its nighttime rhythms. But it was a peaceful quiet, the silence of a place well tended and loved. Amanda and Cole lived several more good years, seeing more grandchildren and great-grandchildren, watching the ranch continue to evolve and thrive. When Cole passed away at 82, it was peacefully in his sleep, with Amanda holding his hand. She grieved deeply, but also celebrated a life well lived and a love that had never wavered. Amanda lived another 3 years, spending her days surrounded by family and the ranch she loved. She never lost her sharp wit or her interest in the operation, offering advice when asked and staying actively involved in major decisions. When she finally followed Cole, it was with the same quiet dignity she had brought to everything in her life. They were buried side by side on a hill overlooking the ranch, their graves marked with simple stones that listed their names and dates, and a single phrase: partners in life and love. The Assis Ranch continued to flourish under the management of their descendants, each generation adding their own innovations while honoring the foundation Amanda and Cole had laid. The story of the lady rancher who bought a failing property against all advice, and the cowboy who partnered with her to build something lasting, became part of family legend, told and retold to each new generation. In the ranch house that had been expanded and modernized but never abandoned, photographs lined the walls showing the evolution of the property and the family. But pride of place was always given to a single photograph taken on Amanda and Cole's 50th anniversary. In it, they stood together on the porch, his arm around her shoulders, both smiling at the camera with the ranch spread out behind them. Their love for each other and for the land they had built together shone clearly in their faces. And sometimes, on quiet evenings when the work was done and the ranch settled into its nighttime peace, descendants of Amanda and Cole would sit on that same porch swing and look out over the land. They would think about the courage it took to bid on a ranch when everyone said you would fail, the wisdom to partner with someone who believed in your vision, and the strength to prove all the doubters wrong through sheer determination and love. The Assis Ranch stood as a monument to what could be accomplished when two people believed in each other completely, worked together tirelessly, and refused to let anyone else's limitations define what they could achieve. It was a legacy of love and partnership that would continue for generations, all because one brave woman refused to be laughed into submission, and one good man saw her vision and chose to make it his own. Their story became a reminder that the greatest successes often come from unlikely partnerships, that love and respect can build empires, and that when two people stand together against the world, they can accomplish anything. Amanda Nelson and Cole Lawson had proven that on a bankrupt ranch in Arkansas in 1882, and their descendants carried that truth forward into each new generation, keeping alive the spirit of courage, partnership, and enduring love that had founded their family legacy.